The Sixers were one bounce away from an Eastern Conference Finals. They got swept out of the bubble, we memed Embiid crying, and they have survived burners, bad drafts, players forgetting how to shoot, and despite all of that, the process has worked perfectly. And it's time we appreciate it. This is the story of the process and the greatest tank job of all time. Let's go back to the beginning of the Sixers' long rebuild. This team hadn't mattered since AI complained about practice. It started in 2013 when GM Sam Hinkie mentioned and stressed the importance of the process. What he meant was losing a shitload of games so you could hoard draft picks. So on draft night 2013, the Sixers dealt their lone star Jrue Holiday and began tanking for picks. The Sixers took Michael Carter-Williams, which is as good as you could hope for in this unprecedentedly bad draft. In 2014, the Sixers took Joel Embiid and Elfrid Payton. Payton would get flipped to Orlando. 2015's NBA draft was an absolute brick from the Sixers. They took Jahlil Okafor 3rd overall. Left on the board, Devin Booker, Kristaps Porzingis, and Kelly Oubre. Okafor at no point was very good, and coming off 19 and 18 win seasons with 3 drafts under their belt, it was time to start seeing some improvement. Instead, the Sixers opened 1-21. They won 10 games that year. Sam Hinkie, the godfather of the process, would step down before the next draft and get replaced by Bryan Colangelo. Look at that collar. The Sixers had the top pick and took Ben Simmons. Did the Sixers brick this pick? Simmons is an all-star, but considering the next 2 picks were Brandon Ingram and Jaylen Brown, I'd say yes. Yes, they did miss. In 2016, the Sixers used Hinkie's massive stockpile of the process picks to move up in the draft and take Markelle Fultz while passing on Lonzo Ball, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, and Kyle Kuzma. This was an enormous L for Philly, and it should be obvious now that the process was not going to be complete through the draft. But things would get much worse and much, much weirder. 47 wins in 3 seasons and 5 lottery picks later, it was time to complete the process and start winning, or call the whole thing a failure. So here's where things get weird. In 2018, The Ringer put together an investigation that revealed that the Sixers GM Bryan Colangelo, or his wife, had a secret Twitter account that he used to shit on Joel Embiid, Markelle Fultz, and Jahlil Okafor. To be fair, we all did that. Also spent a lot of time defending the size of Colangelo's shirt collars. Shirt collars that are just objectively way too fucking big. Look at them. The Sixers fired Colangelo in the fallout and moved on to their 3rd general manager in the process era. With Simmons and Embiid, the Sixers seemed poised to grab a star free agent. Free agents that included KD, Chris Paul, and most notably LeBron James. People forget that at one point the Sixers seemed like they were the front runner for the Kings' services. There were even some really good photoshops made, but the Sixers would strike out across the board. In 2019, the Sixers locked up and pushed the eventual champion Toronto Raptors to a Game 7. Kawhi would hit that wild shot to send the Sixers home in tears. 2020 wasn't a normal season for anyone. But after the Sixers got 2-pieced in the bubble by the Celtics, the one last constant of the process, Coach Brett Brown, who had somehow survived a 10-win season, botched picks, and the burner scandal, finally got the axe. Despite all of this, all the problems along the way in the process, this could still be the year for Philly. Ben Simmons is an all-star, Embiid is an MVP favorite, and the Sixers are going to be a top seed in the East. Could the process finally be complete? Who knows? But you can't argue that it didn't get them this far. Either way, all hail Hinkie, long live the process.